Welcome to my show. It's a guest here. Her name is Dr. Sarah Young. Dr. Sarah, how are you doing, ma?
I'm doing well. How
All
are
right.
you?
I'm fine. Thank you very much. And thank you so much for the time and the opportunity, Dr. Sarah. Firstly, you are an author. You are also an integrative medical doctor and a neuropath specialist. Can you please, Dr. Sarah, discuss more about yourself and how you're doing currently now, Dr. Sarah?
So I was trained in the medical world in medical speech language pathology, and I actually sustained many brain injuries. My last brain injury was in 2019, and it appeared that my life would never be the same. And I wanted to find out if that was actually true. So that led me to enroll in a PhD program in integrative medicine. And through that program, I was able to heal my brain and learn all of the things that you have come across in my book in terms of multidimensional healing in the realm of brain injury.
It's definitely not easy, to be honest with you. So I have a very serious injury that could take a lot of anxiety away from one person. It's not easy as a person, and that is why I would like to dive to your book, which is the experience you've had during the experience of your brain injury and how you probably recovered from those situations. Quantum integrative medicine for brain injury. Can you please, Dr. Sarah, discuss more on that book? And do you also plan to write more books in the coming future, Dr. Sarah?
Yes. So, quantum integrative medicine for brain injury is pretty groundbreaking because most people think of brain injury and they just see the physical parts. And brain injury has a lot more levels to it. There are a lot of changes cognitively, emotionally, sensory wise. The entire nervous system kind of gets disrupted. And not only does the physiological system, the physical body need to be in balance and need to be in alignment in order to heal. But what medicine today is missing is that there's many other layers that are co-occurring with brain injury. So there's emotional changes, there's a loss of identity with who the person knows themselves to be. There's a disconnect between that and the person that the body they're living inside today that's not reacting the way they're used to it reacting. It's not able to think or speak the way that they're used to, and that can create a void, and it can create a lot of isolation for individuals that are experiencing brain injury. And that is what the second book that I'm working on
Okay.
right now is about. It's about, so the first book that you mentioned, Quantum Integrative Medicine for Brain Injury, is a clinician's guide. So it's meant to give the world all of the research parts, because what surprised me about my own recovery is that I really, when I started that journey, I was not convinced that there was another way. I was willing to open my mind and consider, well, maybe I might find something there. But I was not one that actually believed, I thought it more woo woo at the
Mm.
time. And I learned thousands of things along the way. And my mind was blown in my own journey. So, my first book was to say, hey, everybody, there's a lot more here that we can do to help individuals recovering from brain injury than anybody is talking about. So, and clinical people, they're all about the research. That's the way I was trained with my medical background. Where's the evidence based practice? Sure, there's a lot of great theories, there's a lot of great fluff, but where is the evidence? So that's what the first book is about. And the second book, The Healing Map, which is coming out probably in the winter or the spring, it's more about people experiencing brain injury, like who I was when my brain was injured was very different. The types of things that I could understand, that I could process. Um, and so the second book is written for all of them. And it's very important for individuals with brain injury to feel validated and to understand that they're not the only one that's experiencing this upside down experience that it is that brain injury is. Have you yourself experienced a brain injury or known somebody who has?
Currently now, I have to say I haven't experienced a brain injury, and I haven't probably known anyone that is in that angle of brain injury. But it is very beautiful for you to bring out something from the experience you've had, because I do not know who I'm going to meet today. I do not know who I'm going to meet tomorrow, who will be in a position whereby he or she has a brain injury. And that is the beauty of the conversation we are having today. We are having a conversation whereby we are being told that there is ways, and we are not always alone when we have situations like this. And that is why I love the other book you want to bring out, because I think it gives the details on those who are actually passing through those situations. Because I know that even if I do not know my future, but even if I or anyone is passing through those situations, I could say yes, I have someone, or I have a book like this that could really help you to build this momentum and also help you heal. I know the other books will also speak about the terms of how people to understand better the brain injury and other features regarding brain injury. But when it's more direct now to the people, it's very beautiful on its own. So thank you so much for the beautiful insight, Dr. Sarah. Also, I would like to dive to the point whereby brain injury is also recovery is mostly physical. You know, people feel like brain injury is something that it has to be physical. As you said earlier, there have to be multiple research and research and research before someone can say, okay, we are having a huge brain injury. So many people feel like brain injury recovery is mostly physical. What do you think listener need to understand about the emotional, the cognitive, and also even the energetic side of healing when it comes to brain injury, Dr. Sarah?
I love that question. So, brain injury is often called the silent injury
Mm.
because the deficits that people experience aren't always visible, right? So, you can think of it like the outside of your house looks really good, but your pipes are leaking and your lights aren't working and your air conditioning and your heat is broken. And from the outside, it looks like a great house, but people don't actually see everything that's going on beneath the surface. So, in terms of cognitive changes, individuals that experience brain injury have a wide variety of symptoms that they might have. It's very common to have deficits in attention, difficulty remembering simple things like things that you're done a million times, suddenly you can't remember how to do it. They experience a condition that's called aphasia, which aphasia is a language disorder in which they're unable to either retrieve the right words or speak the right words.
Wow.
It could also be that they have trouble understanding, processing, comprehending speech and language. And even sometimes, if they are able to comprehend it, they also may just forget it, right? They might forget it right after you've said it. So the other thing that often occurs is it never happens with, just a bubble, right? There's a whole family that's usually involved in cases with individuals with brain injury. So there's often a disconnect between the way the person that is experiencing the brain injury feels and is experiencing and perceiving life compared to the other people in their world that might be thinking, I told you that 5 times. Why are you asking me again? Right. Or the individual with brain injury who is trying to say how they feel isn't always the right pace for people in the world. People tend to want you to speak quickly, hurry up, get it out, get past whatever it is so the next person can speak. However, with aphasia, there's a struggle to find the right word. And the more pressure that we have in those communication exchanges, the more the brain wants to say, that's it. That's too much pressure. I give up. Forget it. So it's very important for people, any person, have compassion, have empathy in your interactions with everyone on this planet. We're all doing the best we can. And we all work a little differently, right? So your brain and my brain, they don't work the same. And that's the beauty of it, right?
Completely agree with you. And that I also completely agree with what you said earlier. And that is why also as a person, I usually say it, even when I even speak to people, we do not know what people are going through in life. We have to just be neutral. No matter how one reacts, no matter how one say, we should just try our best to calm down and be kind and be emotionally support and just be kind and nice to every single person we find around ourselves because we do not know what he or she is going through, whether it's ups or down. And that is why I also like the point of this brain injury point that you also said that every single person brain cannot even work the same. And that is the beauty of what we have currently. We have to think differently, we have to see things differently, and that is why we have to have this sense of calmness. I think the reason why you do understand better is because you've been in the position, and that is why you understand better when it comes to people reaction towards things and what you experienced during that time when you had that injury, how you reacted. To definitely be very different from now that you are, super different. So that is why I think you understand better. And I'm so glad that those are things that people also need to also try their best to get, that we are human beings. We should just try our best to interact with people nicely, and it will really help us in a very large way. I would also like to dive to the point of families, caregivers. Families plays a very good role and a very powerful role when it comes to people who are having brain injury. Even caregivers, people who care for them, people who show the sense of emotional support. What do you think are some of the practical or the holistic strategies that families and caregivers can use daily to support someone living with an acquired brain injury? Dr. Sarah.
That is a great question. I have a lot to say to that end. Um, when you're speaking with someone that has brain injury, right now, as you hear me speak, you might notice I'm only saying a couple words at a time before I pause, right? That's intentional pausing that gives the listener an opportunity to process because as in life, I'm sure your audience might have some individuals that they're processing isn't a speedway train, right? So, keeping in mind that other people, you may need to slow down the way that you're speaking. You may need to repeat it again. You may need to give them a lot more grace than you think that you do, right? There's a lot of foods that can help support brain injury recovery. So things like salmon have great omega-3 fatty acids, which support the brain. Making sure that you include a lot of berries, a lot of nuts like walnuts, which resemble the brain actually if you compare them visually. Those are good brain healthy foods. Ensuring that the individual gets plenty of movement, that's
Mm,
safe movement, right? So we don't want someone with brain injury that may have a change in their balance or in their strength. We wouldn't just say, go run around the block right away, right? Because maybe they need someone to be with them
mm,
and maybe having a different way to do your exercise program is going to be very important because when you do physical exercise, and this is not limited to brain injury, okay? This is you and me and everyone. The more you exercise, your heart beats faster. The more you get your heart rate up, the more blood flow you take to your brain. The more blood flow that you take to your brain, the more oxygen gets delivered. And it's a very hungry organ, the brain, right? Even though it only makes up of 2% of your body weight, it takes up 20% of your energy. And after brain injury, it takes up even more. Okay. So we need 40% more calories after a brain injury. And yet, individuals likely commonly experience a lack of appetite. So the family might say they don't want to eat, right? I offer food and they don't want to take. So it's important for the individual with brain injury to know, like, I understand you're not feeling hungry, and it's your brain still needs more calories than it did before this. So let's try to have a handful of walnuts every 2 hours. Let's have just a handful of food so that it doesn't feel impossible, right? So families and caregivers, they may need to break things down into simpler steps. They might need to speak a little bit more slowly, give more pauses, say less complicated words, have a lot more grace than they probably are thinking. And remember that brain injury and other conditions as well are often silent, which means you aren't going to see everything that's going on underneath the surface. Even though they look solid, inside is probably a hurricane that you're not even imagining the complexity of.
Oh, very, very beautiful. That shows that we have to try our best as people who probably might be in a position, or even in the future, we have a person, probably in a family or a caregiver, who have a person who have brain injury. We have to try our best to try to observe the person and study the kind of person he or she is. Then know how we can give the response to know how we could build ourselves. Because as you said earlier, the brain might want more and more and more food, and that's why I love what you said, walnuts and other things that they can also do to also keep themselves eating. And I love one thing that you said, exercise. Exercise is very, very powerful and important in every single, even in every single person's life. And that is why we have to continue to use that to engage ourselves and show this kind of care, love, and we have to become, most especially as I said, we have to observe the kind of person who have this kind of injury, know what he or she is really struggling with, and know how to say it calmly and know how to give the solution as well. And also, I would like to dive to the point of mindfulness in area of the traditional rehabilitation method. I don't know that you speak a lot when it comes to caring for people who have this injury and people how we could also show the sense of careness and also exercise as well. But how do you think practices like mindfulness, energy work, as you said earlier, or emotional support also complement with the traditional rehabilitation methods, Dr. Sarah?
That's a great question. So for me, that was very important and integral in my personal recovery from brain injury. The research on mindfulness and meditation to study the internal storm that I was talking about earlier is really important. And some of that is because of awareness at the very simplest level. Most people on the planet, we're running around, we're doing this, we're doing that, we're making breakfast, we're taking a shower, we're taking the kids to school, whatever it is that we're doing, right? But we're not always stopping and tuning inside to who we are, not only as a human being on planet Earth, right? But if you go beyond that, who we are as a spiritual being, who we are is divine. We're a soul, we're a light, right? So it's so important. And in fact, I might even say it's number one that we take the time to sit down and go inside. You can do breathing exercises. There's many different types. You can use mantras, which is another word for a meaningful phrase that you would repeat to keep your mind steady and to give it one focal point instead of being kind of all over the place. But there's many different types and ways to do meditation. I think awareness, not just of yourself physically, but when you stop and you tune in and you start to listen, right? What is going through my consciousness? What is my consciousness bringing forward for me today? And just because something comes forward in your consciousness doesn't mean you have to hang on to it, right? So you can watch it pass by. Think of it like a cloud. Not all of that may be yours, but bringing yourself into that place of mindfulness, into that place of meditation is hugely important for your nervous system. So if we jump back into the science of it, right? Your nervous system is designed to respond and adapt. So for people with brain injury, they're kind of chronically on the fight or flight mode, right? Their sympathetic nervous system, their fight or flight overreacts to things in the environment that maybe it doesn't need to, right? It has a hard time cutting out the noise, things that you and I can just kind of gloss over. The brain kind of grips onto when it comes to that. So, meditation and mindfulness, what that does with breathing as well is it calms the nervous system, thereby activating what's called the parasympathetic nervous system, which is think of it like your rest and digest. Okay. So if you're always stuck in fight or flight and the alarm bells are always going off, it's really hard to heal from a place like that, right? And I think this is absolutely not just about brain injury. This is all of us.
I completely agree with you, Dr. Sarah. It's completely true. Honestly speaking, we have to try our best to be mindful and also create a sense of meditation, which is very powerful for us to heal very fast. And also, I love what we also usually we do agree that we are in a busy world. The world is very busy, but I love it. We can have a better way we can help ourselves heal by having this kind of mindfulness, and meditation is also simple. And that is why I always repeat it that connecting with nature, there's nothing more powerful than that. When we see nature and we try our best to connect with it through meditation, through this kind of calmness, it helps in many, many ways. And I honestly thank you for those beautiful insights, to be honest, from the bottom of my heart. And also, I would like to dive to the point of caregiving and people who show the sense of emotional support, who show the sense of help, this kindness to a person who had a brain injury, whether in a family or a friend or person who knows this person well. It could be overwhelming sometimes. When someone is dealing with someone who have a brain injury, it could get to a point whereby a person will just get tired, even a point whereby a person could be crying. What could I do? I'm just tired. You understand? Those times will come. So, what do you think is the advice you can have for listeners if they get to that point when they support their loved ones without getting to a point whereby they start to burn themselves or they start burning out themselves, Dr. Sarah?
I love that question. I'm really glad you asked. And I'll tell you, I work with thousands and thousands and thousands of families. And the number one thing that I really want to say, and if if like if in our imagination the words could be in all caps, right? I would say, hey everybody, I'm talking to you. You've got to take care of yourself in order to take care of others. You cannot give from an empty cup. I know that you are the captain of the ship, but if you don't take care of you in all of your levels, make sure you're sleeping, make sure you're eating, make sure that you also are doing self-care practices like breathing and meditation. As caregivers, people tend to want, caregivers are often family. We love our family. We want our family to do well. And if they need something, we want to do that, but you have to also take care of yourself.
Yeah.
That's the part that people miss. And you might have to come up with a really structured plan of how to do that because of the pace of life, right? because life doesn't stop moving, but either does your health. And if you keep giving out of your cup and it's empty and you just keep going and you keep going, the body will put you down. The body has a way of, it's very intelligent. You'll get sick, you know, you'll catch something, you'll catch the flu. It's your immune system. If you burn yourself out, you can't stay in a balanced, aligned state of health and well-being. So always, I'm really grateful for all of you out there who take
Yeah.
care of, your family and your loved ones experiencing brain injury, but please also love yourself and take care of yourself because you deserve that also.
Completely agree. We all deserve. We should show kindness. We should show support, but should not get to a point whereby it's affecting us in a very, very huge way. It is a very big insight, and thank you for that. And also, I would like to go back to your book, Dr. Sarah, the Quantum Integrative Medicine for Brain Injury. If you think the listeners could take just one thing from the book, and you could just say one step today towards supporting holistic brain healing, what would you recommend, and what do you think you could take from the book, or one lesson you could take from the book, Dr. Sarah? So that's the two question.
So, as I mentioned, there are thousands of things that can help people with brain injury. But if you're going to narrow it down to one, I'll tell you the first thing that popped into my head. Okay. And it's a little bit of quantum. So I don't know if you've ever heard of the observer effect in quantum physics, but a real simplified version is that the way that you look at something, the way that you see something changes the outcome. You looking at it changes the outcome, okay? So let's make that relevant to what we're talking about here. So if I am recovering from a brain injury and I'm focusing on how terrible it is. I'm like, "Oh, I'm just nauseous and I have a headache and this is so bad and life is never going to be the same." Where am I putting my energy? Wherever you're putting your energy is what you're purchasing, okay? So is that what we want to purchase? I don't think it is. I don't think that's what you want to ask for, right? So you could say, I'm healing every day in every way. I'm getting better and better. You could say, tomorrow's going to be better than today. Today was a little rough, but yay, we still got tomorrow. We're going to do a little better. You can evaluate how your day went and decide how you could make it better the next day, right? You could be thankful. You could look at all the things you're grateful for. And hey, I get it, man. When you're dealing with brain injury and all the fallout from that, I'm going to be honest with you. There were days where I couldn't think of anything. And so I just said, I'm grateful for toilet paper. I'm grateful that I have toilet paper when I go use the bathroom because there are people that don't have toilet paper, right? So there's always something to be grateful for. And chances are, once you open that door, you're going to get flooded with all the other things that you can also be grateful for. Like in that little silly example, I could also be grateful that I have a bathroom. Oh, and I could be grateful I have a home that has a bathroom, right? And oh, I could be grateful that I have enough money to pay for the home that has the bathroom with the toilet paper, right? So you get to decide how you respond to your life, and life responds back. So, how you look at yourself, how you look at your healing, how you look at that journey, and everything that comes with it, it's in your hands. Energy follows thought.
Hmm. Very, very beautiful. That shows that having the sense of positivity, saying positive to ourselves, having the belief of positivity, give back the positivity that we need to have. So we should not try our best because things are difficult, because things are tough, because we have this kind of situations in life, which we are not the only one passing through it, should not mean we should start to say negativity with ourselves. Those negativity will also, come to pass. We have to continue with the sense of saying positivity, giving ourselves the light, and it always happens like magic. Also, there is a question I normally ask during the end of the show, Dr. Sarah. From our forefathers, from our ancestors, there are a lot of beautiful things that do exist during our ancestral time that is missing in our time today. If there is anyone or anything you would like to bring back to our time today, Dr. Sarah, What do you think that thing will be, Dr. Sarah?
Unconditional loving, because that covers everything else.
Completely agree. We have to have this unconditional love. Love is very important in our life. We have to show love. We have to show care. We have to show the kind of support, but we have to also try our best to take care of ourselves and make sure that we are not getting it to a point where we're crossing the boundary that it will start to affect us. I also want to, from the bottom of my heart, Dr. Sarah, I want to thank you for this time and the opportunity. Brain injury is not easy. Sometimes we usually hear these things, but it is not an easy thing. And most especially, I usually feel for those who are actually caring for this kind of people, it is not easy. They have to be very, very calm, very, very supportive, and very, very
Hmm.
get to a point whereby they have to continue to show that love back and back and back for that person to recover from the situation he or she have found himself. So I'm glad you are fine, you are doing well, everything is doing great, and you're now writing another book which will also benefit a lot of people. Thank you so much for the time and the opportunity, Dr. Sarah.
Yes, and if you go to my website, neurosynergy.com, the introduction to the second book that I mentioned, The
Yeah.
Healer's Map, you can find it there to download.
All right. Have a wonderful day, Dr. Sarah. Bye.
Thank you so much. It was wonderful to see you. Bye bye.